Then before I take the floor for our statement, I want to ensure that I understood well. Did the Minister of Human Rights from the DRC government accuse my delegation and my country of being genocidal in their territory? We want to make sure that this August Assembly is present when these kind of allegations are made on other member states without criteria. And we want to make sure that Mr. President, as you mentioned, the conduct of every member state and participant in this August Assembly should be upheld at the highest level. Thank you.
I suggest that you take up the point you just made bilaterally outside this room with the delegation of the DRC, and that you continue now with your statement. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
It's a red line, Mr. President, for my country to be allegedly accused of genocide when we know that this is a criteria that international law guides. There's no mechanism that has called for that, and I will not allow for that to be mentioned here in the UN premises and accept that this happens under your watch, Mr. President. I want you to please address this. It's not an allegation that we will accept.
The EU is deeply alarmed by the dramatic escalation of violence in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and by the FFM's report documenting a pattern of widespread human violations and abuses by all parties, including acts which may constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity. The EU is appalled by the targeted attacks against civilians by all parties. The continuing deterioration of the human rights and humanitarian situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo warrants the prompt operationalization of the Commission of Inquiry for the DRC. We therefore call on all members to ensure that the OHCHR is adequately funded to carry out the mandates entrusted to it by this Council. High Commissioner, to what extent can OHCHR continue to receive and store relevant information of serious violations and abuses of human rights and international humanitarian law until the Commission of Inquiry is operational? Thank you.
Mr. President, Rwanda rejects claims that it directs or controls M23 or any other armed group. Under international law, attribution requires concrete, reviewable proof. The report itself cites access constraint and heavy reliance on remote, open source material with no access of data. Such grave allegation must be backed by verifiable evidence. A simple word count of the FFM report reveals an interesting picture. M23 appears 110 times in the report. Rwanda/RDF appears 65 times. FRDC, 42. Wazalendo, 43. FDLR, only 15, and generic armed groups 23 times. This imbalance shapes a pre-cooked narrative and skews the reality on the ground. It overlooks roughly 260 armed groups that operate actively in the Eastern DRC, in addition of armed foreign involvement alongside FRDC, including private military contractors, mercenaries, and bilateral military forces. This fits a pattern of politicized reporting that vilifies Rwanda without evidence. Rwanda is a UN member state that contributes to peace and stability. We will not accept being continuously subjected to baseless accusation. Rigorous evidence is non-negotiable, and any breach of that standard will be challenged every single time. Rwanda also rejects any involvement in the events reported in Rutshuru in July 2025. Even the report acknowledges shortcomings in verification. Phone records and satellite images alone are not enough, especially when victims are tied to ethnical labels in ways that can inflame tensions. Meanwhile, the reports minimize the verified hate speech and identity-based attacks against the Congolese Tutsi communities that continue, particularly around Minembwe in South Kivu. The pattern is clear and urgent. We ask the Council to treat this as an early warning priority and act now. Mr. President, context matters. The DRC has repeatedly committed to neutralizing the FDLR. Through the Washington Peace Agreement, the African Union, Nairobi and Luanda process, relevant Security Council tracks, and the MONUSCO mandates. Instead, the DRC-backed FDLR have been equipped, enabled, and give space to recruit, spread genocidal ideology in the eastern DRC. And this brings me to MONUSCO. 25 years have passed. Billions have been spent. Civilians are still not protected, with the DRC-backed FDLR being provided more arms and actively recruiting. The UN's costliest mission cannot be measured by reports. Renewing mandates without review to apply effective change clearly repeats failure. Mr. President, I conclude with 3 points. We urge the Council to pause new mandates and launch a UN-aligned review to streamline overlapping mechanisms under Item 2 and 10 and redirect resources to what would be the most effective for civilians. 2, adopt and publish one evidentiary standard for all. Give concerned states timely prior notice of reports so that they can engage before any public condemnation. Condemnation without engagement is counterproductive. 3, we reject all recommendations addressed to Rwanda. It is very concerning that a point of order was ignored by the President of the Council when my delegation called for clarification of a grave allegation that was not made with any evidence. Accountability must be based on objective verified results instead of selective reporting that prejudges member states like mine, Rwanda. I thank you.